Mainstreet. This week we have some very interesting guests on. We've got two comedians, writers, producers, directors. They've done just about you name it all. But before I get to that, I just want to thank you all for joining us here on Mainstreet. Hope you all had a wonderful week since the last time we were together. And every week now, the show will be on at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. We've got some great guests coming up. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we sort of head to the end of the program. But let me introduce these two gentlemen to you very upfront right away. My very first two guests are Riccadonna and Richie Byrne. They're both comedians, actors, producers, directors, and there they are. They just came off a comedy marathon for two wonderful benefits, and I took a little part in it, but I should have not probably taken that much of a part in it. But at any particular rate, we're having they were having a great time. Welcome to Mainstreet, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, man. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I mean, it's cold here in Central Florida, but not as cold as probably where you guys are. That's for sure.
It's not cold where you are. What is it, like 50?
Try 40, and it'll be in the 30s tonight.
It's like 12 here. I'm freezing.
Listen, Gary had to wear a T-shirt, so he's freezing. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He had to wear a T-shirt, and he wore those aren't even headphones; those are earmuffs.
Well, all you got to do, Richie, is take a drink, and you'll be well fortified, and the antifreeze will be working for you.
Already on it, Gary. Already on
it. Listen, you guys just came off this weekend with a fabulous comedy marathon, which was raising money for two wonderful charities. Talk a little bit about that. Did you accomplish your goal as far as the hours for the Guinness Book of World Records? And talk about some of the comedians that were on, because I would tune in from time to time without you guys knowing I was there, and I would see Wendy Lieberman, Judy Gold, this one, that one. How did it go? And tell everybody about it.
I'll start with the charities, and then Richie, if you want to talk about the comics.
Sure.
Yeah, both charities were near and dear to my heart, and it's the reason we went with them. Is first one was the Children's Brain Tumor Foundation, and I got to know them through a fundraiser that they did at the Friars Club, which Richie is actually a member of. I'm not a member of, but I got I got offered to come in, and I got to perform on a show for them, and I met a young comedian named Kyle Kratzky, who is a survivor of a childhood brain tumor.
And I believe he was on too, right?
Yeah, he would pop on now and again. He did a really funny set where he roasted everybody. I absolutely loved it. And I got to know him and his father and get behind the foundation. So one of the groups was obviously going to go to them. As soon as we said we we're going to do a fundraiser, I couldn't wait to call them. And then the other was called Star Treatments. And Star Treatments is another accident that I got to know this guy. I was on a talk show with Don Jameson, and we interviewed a rock star named Matt Dorito, who's a bass player for Pop Evil. And we were plugging his foundation, and what they do is transport children who have illnesses and need help financially for transportation to be put up, because sometimes the family doesn't live close to a hospital. And not only do they do that like the Shriners, much like the Shriners, but they do it in a rock star fashion. They take the kids out on party buses or limos. They have hotel rooms that are suites, and they really give the kids the treatment that they deserve. They really show the love to the kids, which is awesome. And I was on the show with Don, and it was a great time. And then a month later, I was asked to do a benefit with a magician friend of mine. So when I joined him, I walked into the room, and there was Matt, who we had just interviewed about a month before. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I went, "Oh, you were plugging the charity for this show." I didn't know I was on the show until like a week ago. So it was a small world. We ended up staying friends. So when it was time for charity to raise money, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And the awesome thing is our producer, Tom and Richie, when I brought them up, they both, and whatever, Mark, like we're with you on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's cool. So
yeah,
great
you know,
stuff.
I find that people in our business, and I used to be a comic, not anymore. I proved that this weekend with Richie on the marathon. That's for sure. We picked on that court.
It was like an Al D'Amato moment you had there.
Yes, it was. It was. But you know, people in our industry, show business in general, are the most giving, the most caring people, and yet we get a rap for being selfish and all this. And we're not all Kardashians, folks. We're not all the Kardashians. Richie,
Richie has the butt. Richie has the butt of a Kardashian.
I am a Kardashian, but go ahead. No, I agree with you, Gary. I think what it is that artists in general they feel a lot more. They're very open in their feelings. But even comics who tend to hide their feelings are only doing that because they're an open wound at all times. And I think that one of the reasons a lot of artists end up getting labeled as, you know, divas or whatever is even that end. Their feelings are so out there that they're so they feel so much for their art. They feel so much for the fact that someone might be trying to screw them, and they feel so much for someone who is in need.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what I see. That's what I get. And I don't know if that was a long way to go, Mark, for that.
No, that was beautiful.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I mean, you know, it's perfect. By the way, I know we're on Twitch. I know we are. And so if you want to ask questions of these two gentlemen, please do. During the introduction, I couldn't quite get it all out, but both of these gentlemen are actors. Richie, who, by the way, Mark Riccadonna and I are like brothers. Richie is like family to me, and he treats me like family. He doesn't write, he doesn't call, he doesn't send me my birthday gifts. He doesn't do anything that's even closely resembles any of this stuff at all.
Even the way I got on this show today was you when you came out and said, Richie, Mark's doing my show Friday, but he said you can't do it. I go,
yeah.
Why can't I do it? And you were like, I don't know. Mark said you can't do it. And I was like, well, maybe Mark doesn't want me on. Again, the artist, and I called Mark. I go, do you not want me on? He's like, no, I'd love you to do it. I don't know what Gary's talking about.
You know what? You two mean a lot to me. You both know that, especially Mark, because I've known Mark a little bit longer. But what Richie said was perfect, because I became a comic only because of my uncle. And I wanted to overcome my fear. Believe it or not, in high school, I was as shy as a church mouse. I was shy. It wasn't until I went into the Air Force and was in a place called South Vietnam that I kind of went, what do I got to fear? So I went on stage to break that stage fright thing. And oh, by the way, Tom is on, and you didn't miss much, Tom. We just started a show a little bit early. But I broke the fear that way.
Tom's pissed you didn't ask him to be on. But go ahead.
He can come on anytime he wants. Just come on,
Tom's the drunk uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom is great. We're having so much fun. But I had you on my last show, and believe me, this is going to be a great platform. I'm coming up with another show, the Gary Allen Show. I don't know where we got the name for that, but you will be on that as well, as long as some of the other comics. But here's
Gary, as long as you keep paying me what you're paying me, I'll come back.
Oh, Richie, I love you. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you get a little bit in him, and he's ready to rock and roll, Listen, one of the things that I want to go over with you two guys is, I know when I make people laugh, I didn't think of it as a profession that I was going to do, but I know Mark, the Youngstown kid. I know that he, you started young. Richie, when did you realize that, oh wow, I can make people laugh, and I might be able to make a living out of this?
Oh, no, not till I was deep into it. I never had a real interest in getting into comedy. I want to be an actor and have a degree in musical theater, and even, I mean, when I was a kid in grammar school, I always was the class clown. Mm-hmm. But I never really thought about it in any way as being anything than just making my friends laugh.
Right.
And in college, high school and college, my friends started saying, you should go into stand-up. You should. And I always thought, no, I can't write material. I can't get up on stage and perform it. I can get up on stage and perform something somebody else wrote, but I can't possibly get on stage and perform something I wrote. And it's funny how now I'm always like, if I am doing somebody else's material as far as a play or anything, how critical I am of it. With someone who said he could never do it. Now, I'm like, who wrote this crap?
Yeah, I got you. How about you, Mark?
I actually I want to piggyback on something Richie said, because a lot of comedians say they're actors. Like, a lot of them do. A lot of them will, they've never taken an acting class in their life, and they tell you they're an actor, and they tell you how they want to be in movies and whatever.
Not Richie. Richie has.
I've got to direct Richie.
Yeah.
And that I have to say, when he was like, no, I'm an actor and I'm a trained actor, and he came in, and the part was actually a friend of ours wrote the play, was written for Richie, and he made Richie audition just to be a jerk.
And Gary, it was the part of a failed comic, which I thought
they should have auditioned me then for that. Definitely.
But I got to tell you, directing Richie was like completely, it made my job so amazing.
Yeah.
And I would ask him questions. He would ask me them back. He would challenge things that I had to say. Yeah. He challenged a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, every single performance, I got compliments because of things Richie did, not things I did. Richie was out there, and he was blowing the audience away every night, and people would come over and say I was the most brilliant director. I can't believe how you got these comedians to come and pour out all this stuff. And I got the compliments for their work, and that's how it always should be.
Well, by the way, I want to plug your show because you guys are on there every week. I want to make sure that everybody understands you guys have your own show, Drinks, Drunks, and Storytelling, Jokes and Storytelling, excuse me. Well, they end up drunk by the end of the show.
Twitch.
It's on Twitch, and Tom, who produces that, is producing with Tom Bannis, who's going to hopefully join us here before too long. I hope he can somehow slip in. My other producer's off doing another show. But, when you get a trained actor, when I was a stand-up comic in LA, and I was an MC at the Improv, and I got into the Groundlings. Now, that's a great improvisational training facility, right? I had Kevin Costner in my class. I had Bob Saget, Barbie Benton. He's wearing the Yankees again today. I love that. He's wearing the Yankees. He won't wear the Phillies for me, but he's wearing the Yankees.
I didn't mean for you to see it. I don't know if you...
That's all right. But the main thing is, Mark, when you're directing somebody, even whether it's a VO or whether it's on camera, you can always tell the actor that has been trained and understands the professional side of the business. Be there on time, know your lines, and have an idea of what you might want to do if director is allowing you to improv a little. And that's so important. Ray Abruzzo and I talked about that. It's so important. But Richie, I know, is a professional. He's such a professional. He's a good guy. I love him already. I mean, he sent me that beautiful Christmas present this year, which, Mark, you didn't send me anything.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And by the way, Richie, you need to send me another blow-up doll. I've already blown through that. Okay.
Well, Valentine's is right around the corner, Gary. So
thank you, dear. Thank you. But by the way, how many hours were you guys on the air with the marathon? I forgot to ask that.
Well, it was supposed to be 84. The goal was 84, and apparently we came in at 89.
Wow.
Which Tom Bannis, our producer, said, if I knew we were as close to 89 as we were, I would have just said, let's do the 100. Like another 11 hours was going to be so easy.
Richie, just tell us one more story.
Yeah, just tell us one more story. By the way, we have a question here. The show you're watching, what is it? High podcast. This is Mainstreet with Gary Allen. I'm on every Friday at 4 p.m. These are two of my dearest friends in the whole world, Mark Riccadonna and also Richie Byrne, who is related to Ken Burns. No, not the documentary guy, but some guy named Ken Burns that he's related to. And I always tease him. You're a warm-up guy for Dr. Oz, Richie.
Yes.
You warm up the audience. People don't know what that is. Mark, we're going to get to you with SNL in just a little bit.
Oh, there's nothing to get to.
Well, there was. You were there. But Richie, what is a warm-up guy? How did you get the gig?
Well, I got the gig through the king of warm-up, which helped a lot. Joey Cola. I don't know if you know Joey.
I know of him.
Joey really took warm-up's been around for many, many years. Ed McMahon was Johnny Carson's warm-up guy. And if you ever watched, actually, Mark, I was watching Gary Sand. Gary Shandling show, Larry Sanders.
Yeah.
And those shows open with Jeffrey Tambor doing warm-up. I forgot about that. And it's very
so good.
low key. He's like, if you look at that light right there, because you light that up, it says applesauce. And everybody laughs. Oh, I'm kidding. It says applause. And it's just the worst warm-up I've ever heard in my life. But it was just funny that every episode opened that way. And warm-up has really become huge in the last 20 years as far as they would tend to hire a comic to come out, and you're basically there to tell the audience what they're about to see, how they should act, and then if there's time in between, go out to keep that audience happy while they're setting up the next scene. And Joey Cola just kind of took it. Rosie O'Donnell, when she had her show, said to Joey, I want a show within a show, and that's what I want you to do. And that's what Joey did, and he took it to another level of warm up and stand up, and he just made it. And Joey became really well known for warm up. And when the producers called him about Dr. Oz show, because he'll get the call of, he recommended me, and that was all it took. Which a lot of shows now actually audition their warm ups, and they'll have like a guy in for a week, and then a girl in for a week, and then another guy, and each week they have different people. And that didn't happen with me. It was Joey said you, and again I got lucky too, because Oz just took to me. If he didn't, they would have moved on from me. But he took to me right away, and I got that, and I just get to have. It can be difficult in the Oz situation because there's a lot of more serious subjects. It's not just a variety show like a Rosie O'Donnell show.
Let me interrupt real quick. Do you stay away from medical humor at all?
No, I don't. I'm careful of what I say if a segment is about something. But as far as, what's funny, Gary? They tell warm-ups to be clean, but then Oz was going on the air talking about, all different sexual diseases and things like that. So I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute. If he can talk about it, you know what I mean? So I had a lot of jokes that were all taken from different segments from the show that I can't, Dr. Oz talks about gonorrhea or whatever, and I would have a joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to piggyback on what you're saying right now, because you're talking about Joey and how he and Rosie had a connection, and you and Oz. And I've noticed, because I go and watch a lot of these guys work, and people actually thought I was trying to get into the warm-up business, but I just really enjoy watching these guys do their thing. And it really is chemistry. The ones that really work are the ones who have a chemistry with the host, the warm-up with the host. And I find it so interesting because like Dina Blizzard was doing Nate Berkus, and they could go back and forth, and they had fun, and she would do funny tips about whatever the last segment was. But the thing I really, really loved about watching Richie work is, even though Oz is in the middle of, the segment or whatever, Richie would be able to do something, and then all of a sudden Oz would come over and start messing with Richie and having fun with them. And you would see the audience just like, oh my God, this is amazing that this guy who's doing the crowd warm-up is so close with the host, because there is a separation of the warm-up and the show, because it's in between the cameras, and then that's where the host is. And Richie kind of knocked that wall down, and it was really awesome to watch him. And they would have a back and forth, and you would see the producers coming over and be like, Dr. Oz, you need to come over here. And he's like, I'm having fun with Richie.
Let me ask you guys, both of you. Richie, you've been doing it for a long time, and I know Michael Berger out in LA, Randy West, who does it as well. Not every comic is built for this. So what kind of skill sets, or what kind of a comic?
It's a great question, Gary, because a lot of comics do come and go, hey, I want to do warm up. And you go, it doesn't mean they're not great comics, but they're not built for warm up. There's a different vibe. And Mark gets that. Mark actually had, one day Mark and I were on a gig together, and he was giving me ideas for warm up that were tremendous. I'm going, oh man, I remember going, why am I doing this? Riccadonna should be doing it. And it's
I'm good from this side telling you what I see might work. I don't think I could do it.
It's about you could. And you've done it. You've done it in other
I've done it.
situations.
Yeah, but I watched you guys work, and I would come and watch the tapings, and it was so amazing because they have no idea how long they have to go and keep the audience entertained.
Yeah.
And I'm a man of schedule. I need to know in 5 minutes I'm done. Or okay, I have an hour. Okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, but Mark, you direct movies, you direct films, and just in between each shots can be an hour setup or a 2-hour setup. And that's what Richie does. He comes in during that hour, or in this case, 30 minutes, and he does boom, you know.
Yeah, but I'm in charge of helping make it work. Where Richie's kind of like, okay, while you guys are doing that, I'll just keep them entertained. I could never. I mean, it's like he's going without a net. He's on a tight rope without a net and has no idea how long the rope is.
Well, Richie is married after all. He understands how to work without a net. You know.
Ironically, my wife's name is Annette.
Huh?
Ironically, my wife's name is Annette. So.
And her name is Annette. Okay, thank you very much.
Learned how to work without Annette. If you know,
that's the thing. I guess I was getting to earlier. When you study at the Groundlings or Second City, you kind of learn that you got to work without a net sometimes, and it improves your comedy, improves your acting. When I was acting on Hill Street or something like that, it helped. I mean, it really helped because sometimes the director will go, well, I hired you to act. Now give me, I mean, you've run across that, Richie, because you did Law and Order.
Yeah.
By the way, you got to tell that story. You got to tell a story about Dick Wolf, for God's sakes. I love that story. Tell the Dick Wolf story, for God's sakes, Richie. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dick Wolf is the mastermind behind Law and Order. Everything. He does my 3 favorite shows in Chicago, which I'm hoping to get on. I got Ray Abruzzo asking if I can get on Chicago Fire. I'm in love with one of the girls on Chicago Fire. I just the blonde, the paramedic.
Okay.
You know. But I also know Jason, who's on who's on Chicago PD. He plays.
Jason Beck. Yeah. Oh, do you really? I love him.
Oh, he's great. He's Canadian. All right, now get to the Dick Wolf story.
All right,
angry somebody or another wants the Dick Wolf story. Go.
All right. Well, it wasn't Law and Order though. That was the thing. It was a new show.
Oh.
What happened was it was a new show called Conviction, and Dick Wolf was the mastermind behind it. So I went into audition for I was going to play a cop who tells a story, which ironically, as Mark will tell you, that's kind of my forte. Everyone knows me. Wow.
You even did a gig where they said he was a cop, a retired cop. So,
really?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's another story. So
we'll get to it.
So, it was just a one-off. I went in audition. And when I walked, and the casting agent had called my agent and said, we want Richie to go in to read for the. Now, what I didn't know was I'm thinking I'm going in for the first set of auditions, which is everybody goes in, you kind of see a million people who look just like you. And no, they were into the callback section. And for whatever reason, couldn't find somebody that they liked for this part. So my casting agent sent me, the casting agent sent me in, and I walked in. So usually your first audition is to some assistant who's holding a camera. There's nobody in the room, but it's nobody important because then they look at the film, they go by, they look at who, and then when they get to the callback, now you're in front of the director or you're in front of, So I go in thinking it's going to be that, and I walk in and there's 6 people behind the table. I'm auditioning for it's almost like a nightclub. There's so many people behind the table.
The Last Supper. You're doing the Last Supper show.
Yeah. And this, I remember that it was a cop who tells a story about a guy who robs a bodega, and he puts a paper bag over his head, cuts out the eyes, but he gets so nervous that when he goes in, the bag is backwards and he can't see. and the cop says, "So this like schlemiel," but he doesn't say schlemiel. It's like a word I never heard before. It's like so this schlazizzle walks into a like in other words like he's like a street name almost like so this you know like doofus.
Scaramouche.
What?
I don't know. I just made up a word.
Shizizzle. Shizizzle. What's his name was writing for the show? Shizizzle. Hey.
This shizizzle. What? And I remember in my head when I was working on it, going, that word is throwing me off because I don't really know it, and it's slowing me my pace down. But I got to make sure I don't screw that word up. Well, when I went in and all these people, I realized it was a callback. I got nervous, and all I could think about was that word. You know what I mean? That was the only thing in my head was that word.
Yes.
So when I did the monologue, I did a good job, and I knew I did a good job, but I went way too slow because that word, I wanted to get that word right. So this flamingo, whatever I said, and when I finished the monologue, the director goes, "All right, Richie, that was great, but you know, this is TV. You got to pick that pace up, you know." And I go, "I know. I just like I go, I know. I go, it's that stupid word. That word threw me off. I don't know why I lost it. Like I go, that's that word." And another guy goes, "You know, when I wrote it, I realized it wasn't and I realized, oh my God, I just insulted the writer and he's in the room. So I've done just about everything wrong at this point."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the Richie Byrne way.
So the writer goes, "You could change the word. It's not really a word." I go, no, it is. It's a street word. I know I've heard of it. And some older guy goes, "It's not a street word. Don't worry." And I go, "No, it is a street word. I know I've heard the word before." And the old guy goes, "No, it isn't." And I go, "Yes, it is." I was like out of my mind for some reason. And so he goes, I go, "Yes, it is." Like, and everybody laughed because I did that. So the director goes, "All right, just take it again from the top and pick up the pace." And I go into it. And I remember, and as I start to go into the monologue, I turn, I go, the old guy, I go, "Am I using that word or am I making a word up?" And everybody laughed. And he goes, "Make a word up." And I go, "Okay, but it's a word." And he goes, "No, it isn't." I go, "Yes, it is." But he goes, "Right, just use it." So they're laughing. So I do the monologue again, and I get through it, and I did well. I remember running into a comic when I'm literally walking out there. They're like, "Hey, good to see you." I'm like, "Yeah," like I'm taking bows. And as I'm leaving, outside the door are all these people who are waiting to go in for auditions, and I run into a friend of mine, Eddie Clark, Eddie Clark, and Eddie goes, "You just killed in there." Like he knew it from outside because he heard them. And he goes, "You just killed that room, man." And he goes, "You're going to get this part." So now they call my agent a few days later, and they offer me a different part. They offer me a part of a bailiff in a courtroom scene. And it's only one line. And they're offering me, usually the way these things work is each show that you get a part on, you get more money. Your money jumps up. Well, they were offering me scale. And I'd already done like Sopranos and Sex and the City, and I was getting more than scale. And my agent said, "Well, can't you do better than scale?" And they said, "No." And she said, "Okay, we're going to turn it down." And the casting agent called her and goes, "You can't turn this down." And she said, "Why?" She said, "He's the bailiff in the courtroom on a show about lawyers. He's going to get called in. He's going to have a recurring role." Like it didn't dawn on us. You know how there's always those small recurring roles where you don't really know the actor, but you do? She goes, "He's the recurring role." Yeah, and we go, "Oh." So now I go in to shoot. The day I go in to shoot, the stage manager's taking me around, and I see the old guy. And he comes up and he goes, "Hey, did you find out if it's a word?" I go, "No, but it's a word." He goes, "It's not a word." I go, "It's a word." And he laughed and he walked away. And the stage manager goes, "Wow, Dick Wolf really likes you." I'm like, "That's Dick Wolf." The funny thing is, if I'd known it was Dick Wolf, I would have never treated him like that. And that's probably why I got the role. You know what I mean? I would have revered him and scared to death. And instead, I was myself, and I got the role.
That's how, in a kind of a weird way, that's how I met Stephen Boschkow, who got me a lot of work in LA. on Hill Street Blues, et cetera, was very similar. Mark, do you got a story that can match
wait,
Richie's?
one more thing,
oh,
Gary.
go ahead.
One more
Go
thing.
ahead.
The funny thing is Dick Wolf, everything he touches turns to gold, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to work for years. I got a hit show here. The show lasted like 4 episodes, and they took it off the air. Like,
and they got to call you back because, I mean, you'd be perfect for Chicago PD. You'd be perfect for Chicago Fire or even Chicago Med.
Yeah, I would. I haven't auditioned in a few years because I got busy with Oz, so I kind of walked away from that end of it, and I really missed that. Especially now. Now that I just did 11 years at Oz in front with a camera, dealing with crew, because now that you know a little bit more about how it works and even though they're a talk show, but you still know the ins. I want to go back to it, and it's I really do, Gary. I would love to go back to auditioning.
Oh yeah. I mean, acting is just it's wonderful. It's beautiful, and when it's all working, it can be fantastic. When I did St. Elsewhere, I got a chance to work with Bill Daniels for a week. Okay, and Bill Daniels was in my favorite musical, 1776.
Yeah.
Now I've gotten to meet a number of members of that cast. Howard, not Ron Howard, but Ken Howard was on my old radio show that I used to do. And I told this story, and I'm going to make it real quick. But at the end of the week, I'm walking out the hallway with Bill Daniels, and he and I talked during the week about 1776 and the actors and the stuff and a boom and everything. And I said to him, I said, Mr. Daniels, as he was going to his car, I said, I just want to tell you, I learned more just by watching you this week than I ever have from any acting teacher or school or wherever I went. And he put his hand on my shoulder like this, and he said, well, of course, my boy, you're working with the best. And Ken Howard laughed like crazy on that. But
what's do you know Maureen Langan by any chance? Comic Maureen Langan? Mark knows her really well.
No, I don't.
Maureen's a great.
You'd love her. She's very funny.
Yeah, you love her. For years she had her own radio show, and I used to do her sidekick with her. And she's in love with the musical 1776.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
She used to make me sing the musical all the time when I was on the show. I did her podcast yesterday, and she made me sing from 1776 just yesterday, Gary. And now it's like that show won't leave me alone.
And the only impersonation that I do from that thing is Howard Da Silva when he played Benjamin Franklin. Hello, I'm Benjamin Franklin. I invented the stove.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you very much. For God's sakes, John, just go away. We'll have to get Mark. Make sure that Tom knows, and we'll get her on the show.
Oh, you have to get her on the show.
You'd absolutely
love with that play. So
I got to see it in New York when I was a little fella. Well, not really a little fella. I was in the military, but a little fella compared to now. But I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. Ken Howard said to me, Gary, you got to get out more often. If 1776 is your reference point, you got to get out into the real world.
See some more shows.
I like the 1776 whiskey.
Yeah. How did I know? Now, Mark Riccadonna has an interesting story that I want to pass on to everybody. For all of you out there, by the way, this is Mark Riccadonna. He's in the beautiful Pittsburgh Steeler colors. And Richie Byrne is at the bottom of the screen. He's an actor. These gentlemen are both comedians, actors, producers. They just came off a beautiful weekend comedy marathon. They set a new record. They also have their own show with drinks, jokes, and storytelling, which is also on Twitch, and they do a fantastic job. You're also watching Gary Allen, little old me, here on Mainstreet. We're with you every Friday at 4 p.m. Now, Mark, there are a lot of actors that we've noticed from some of the questions in the past that watch this show, people that are interested in the business. You came from Youngstown, Ohio, that thriving metropolis, all the way to New York City. Talk about how you got to the American Academy, number one. Number two, weren't you scared out of your brain from Ohio to New York City?
Yes, but I think I was so scared to be going to a conservatory for acting, having zero experience as an actor. I was so scared of that New York didn't scare me.
How did you get in if you didn't have any?
That's a good question.
So this is what's crazy. This is what's wild. The largest and hardest school to get in, I got in, and I got turned down by everywhere else. And I asked Dino, the guy who auditioned me, and the head of the school, I asked them at graduation, I said, how the hell did I even get in here?
Mhm.
Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And they go, well, you came in to your audition and you did a very good job. But then we looked at your resume and we saw you had absolutely nothing on there other than like a high school play. So when I gave you a note to change your monologue, you just did it. And you just did what we asked. And we realized you don't have any bad habits because you don't have any habits. We look at you as a fresh piece of clay, and you actually had a little bit of a talent that you took a monologue that, that you just probably found in a monologue book at the library, memorized it, and then just gave it your best shot.
Yeah.
And you did a good job. You weren't a great actor or anything, but you did a good job. And then when we gave you notes, you immediately adapted to it and did whatever we asked. So we knew you would be a good student more than coming in as a good actor. And so I actually got in because I had no experience.
You were green, you were naive, and you just went along with what you were told. Do you guys think, and Mark, I want you to finish your story real quick, but within that story, do you think that adaptability is a key to this business in general?
I think 100%. It's the most important thing. I know if I'm on a set and I'm a director or in the theater and I have an actor who is willing to try and willing to work on something and take notes, I want to direct that actor more than I do the great actor who comes in and is stuck in his way.
Well, I'm thinking of an actor that you directed not too long ago, and Richie, you know who it is. I'm not going to mention his name, although he opened up the marathon. He was really good friends with Robin Williams, as I was. How in the name of God did you direct him?
It was difficult because he's like a wild horse. He's a wild horse, and I was the guy who had to break in the horse to get what I needed. So it was very hard because he's so talented and so good at what he does that he doesn't necessarily want to. He'll listen, but he's going to do what he wants. And I mean, if you look at it from a director's standpoint, looking at actors, if you have an ensemble of just good actors, but they're willing to work, it's just as effective as if you have a really great player and a bunch of mediocre players, because the team makes the whole thing happen. You might have a running back who has the record for the most yards, but if the offensive line isn't working together, that running back's not that effective.
Yeah.
So it's about, as a director, it's about seeing the overall picture and getting everybody to work together. Whereas an actor, it's a little more about you and the person you're doing the scene with. So,
I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Richie.
Director say to me in college, which was a better time because it stayed with me my whole career as an actor. He said, I'd rather you come in with too much than too little, because I can pare down too much, but I don't know if I can build up too little.
Yeah. But I mean, to me, it's think of the idea of like having Antonio Brown on your team. He's so full of himself that he poisons the rest of the team. Yeah. So it's a matter of having a bunch of people willing to work really hard. I mean, I know you're busting my chops with the Steeler colors, but every time the Steelers has a good team, it's not because they have all-stars. They're all good and they all work together.
Hey, the Dolphins 17-0 season didn't have really huge big names except for Larry Zonka and Jim Kick, who were good friends of mine, and Mercury Morris and Bob Greasy. But they had Don Shula, and the team played together. Yeah, the no-name defense.
But I will say this.
When my brother played for the Colts, they didn't have big names except for Johnny Unitas. Right. But the football team is made up of some stars and then guys that are the 4th, 5th, and 6th round draft picks and free agents that cement everything together.
Mark,
go ahead, Richie.
Antonio Brown is in the Super Bowl and the Steelers aren't. Just thought I'd let you know that.
How many Super Bowl rings does he have? Just check.
You know what? I'll give you an even better example. Is Odell Beckham. I mean, the guy's an immense talent. But what has anything he's been on? There's never a winning anything ever. He was a cancer with the Giants. as far as he created the divisions, and it was all about him. And the Browns were better when he got hurt. The Browns played so much better after he got hurt. But Antonio Brown's a good example too. I was just kidding.
We could have went with T.O. We could have went with there's a million examples of assholes.
Well, in that same vein, Richie and Mark, you're listening to Mainstreet. Gary Allen here with Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne. We're on every Friday at 4 p.m.
Did you hear that? He screwed up.
I screwed up. Well, send me more Christmas gifts. Anyway, there are people in the business, in show business, that have destroyed their careers for no reason other than their egos. You've probably worked with comics that have been like that.
We had one on the marathon.
No, we're not mentioning any names here, We had
250 amazing comedians and 2 jerks.
Yeah.
Wait. Forget my little 2-minute segment when I
not
came
you. Not you.
Made fun of the Japanese kid. You know what I mean?
Two guys who decided to sabotage the show for no reason whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Well, we're not going to ever have them on Twitch again. By the way, catch these guys on their own show on Twitch. Drinks, jokes, and storytelling. They're fabulous, both of them. Forget the Pittsburgh Steelers colors. By the way, your quarterback may not be coming back next year because of contract problems. And my guys may be getting a new quarterback. Stafford said he wants to play for the Colts.
Well, no, Stafford's gone. He's going to be gone.
Yeah, he wants to play for the Colts.
I didn't know you were a Lions fan.
No, he's a Colts fan.
I'm a Colts fan.
Think of who his brother is.
I got it.
Remember who my brother was?
Yes, I do. I love him.
God rest his soul. Mark, at this particular
wait, hold on. Before we move on, do you think that's why you said you were quiet as a church mouse as a kid, because of who your brother was?
That and the fact that my uncle was Tubby Boots.
You were surrounded by these
accomplished people.
Yeah, is that why you think you were a little?
I was a fat
shy?
Little Jewish kid in school. I would pipe up every once in a while. When I got to high school, I was a little more noisy, but in elementary school and junior high, middle school, I was very, very quiet, very, very shy.
How much older was your brother than you, Mike?
Well, Mike was 77 last year when he died, and he's about 10 years older.
So
he's about 10 years old.
Yeah, he was playing in the pros when you were in high school. So
I was doing the water bucket thing for Johnny Unitas and Earl Morrill and Raymond Berry. And when they were in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, I was doing all that stuff. It may be. And my father was an accomplished captain for Eastern Airlines. My mother was an interior designer. She did homes for Jackie Gleason and Don Rickles' mom and Lauren Green. Maybe, Mark. I've never thought about it too much, but it could be. My sisters were accomplished as well, and other family members. And I just, I'm not the baby. The baby is my little brother Greg, and he's a priest up in Boston, a Greek Orthodox priest.
No, you had no shot.
No,
your brother's a priest, and you're interviewing me and Mark.
Yeah. I mean, I got it covered, one way or the other. But Mark, at this particular time, and even you, Richie, Mark, is directing the direction you're kind of going in because of the COVID as well?
I mean, it's something weird with me, and it's probably not the answer like your agent ever wants to hear or anything like that. But to me, every day that I wake up and get to do something creative, I feel like I'm winning at life. I love comedy as much as I love acting, which is as much as I love writing and directing. To me, it's all the same creative muscles that you use, just in a different way. But I do prefer directing. And I do prefer writing over the other arts because I don't necessarily feel I like stand-up comedy and acting. I don't like the amount of attention you get from it.
You're right. You guys know my background. I opened for a number of celebrities over the years on the road and stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I stopped doing it because I wanted to get back into radio. I wanted the anonymity to a certain extent. Being behind the microphone where people don't need to see this ugly face, and you're right. And Richie, you're right. I mean, when I was growing up, having the people I had as family members and parents, it's hard. I mean, am I going to play? I mean, in high school, the head football coach used to say, Gary, why don't you come out for the football team? And I said, you're kidding, right? You know, you're kidding, right? I mean, why don't you just put Johnny Unitas Jr. on my jersey here, and I'll be the quarterback of the high school. You know, but yeah, you know. But Richie, how about you? I mean, what? You're not going to be a warm up forever. You're an actor. You're very talented, super talented. What direction do you see you going in?
Well, I mean, I didn't expect 30 years in stand-up. I went into stand-up thinking I'll do this for a year and hopefully get an agent and get back into acting. And you do it for 6 months and go, oh wow, this is a lifetime thing. This is like playing golf. You're never going to be perfect at this. This is just constantly trying to get better and trying to get better. Yeah. So, and I never expected to be a warm-up. That kind of just happened. I got a phone call. I literally got a phone call saying your ship has come in from Joey Cola, and that, you know, I got a warm-up gig that turned into, and I thought, oh, well, this will last a year. Mm-hmm. And either he'll get canceled or they'll fire me. And that was 11 years. And hopefully after this COVID thing's over, I'll be back with him. But my one dream in life since I'm in high school has been that I want to be in a Broadway musical. And I've never been I've been in a lot of musicals. I have a background in musical theater. So I think once COVID lets up and audiences allowed back in, that's probably where I'm going to pursue a lot. I'm going to go back to my hometown in Staten Island and hopefully do a play through a friend's theater group and just start working back. Yeah. But Gary, that doesn't mean I won't be doing every weekend at Haas and
No. Jay Leno has more money than God, and he's every weekend he's out performing somewhere.
And it doesn't mean that when Mark calls me for a movie, I'm not going to go, yeah, all right, I'll be there, or whatever. And Mark and I are still going to do our thing. I mean, I've known Mark for over 20 years, but in the last 5, we've worked together a lot. Yeah, and we went from the play to having same manager for a while, and I realized like Mark's never happy just one thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a possibility because I'm always so this just laser focused comedy. And I think it's been a blessing to work with Mark because he's always like, hey, I'm doing this now. Why don't you come along? Yeah. All right.
Well, you said something, Richie, you said something interesting that I think both of you will agree to. You know, as far as being a comedian or an actor or a director, you can't do it from your basement. The more you get out there, the more opportunities come your way out of the blue. Mm-hmm. Out of the blue.
Absolutely.
Every single thing I've ever gotten in this business was on accident. I've never went like Richie. I'm jealous of the guys who do this. Like Richie goes on auditions and actually goes to the auditions, gets the call back, gets the part, shows up, does the work, and then he's out, and then he gets another audition. I'm so jealous. Every single thing I've ever gotten was somebody going like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You'd be right for this. Okay. Do you want me to audition? No, you got it.
Hey, listen, it was even actors today, well-known actors. Ray Abruzzo was telling me off the air a couple of weeks ago when he was on that some of these young directors don't know who he is.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it's so awesome that like Richie's doing the actual thing that you dream about when you're in acting school. Like everything I'm doing, I'm like constantly questioning myself. Am I legit? I never like actually went the right route. It's always been back doors. You know, it's the comedian. I've never went through the front door of the theater. I know what every kitchen and every comedy club looks like.
Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes if they don't let you in the front door, Mark, you got to knock it down in the back, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Gary, it's funny you say that about young directors not knowing who Ray Abruzzo was. One of the things I loved about what we did last weekend with the telethon was we had comics of every generation on, and sometimes they just be on together like this. And John Pavaramo, who helped us immensely to get the show off the air, going. Mm-hmm. He was saying to us the other day how much he enjoyed meeting Rob Bartlett, who's just a legend. Mm-hmm. And then Rob, and he even called Rob. He said, wow, it's great to have Mr. Belvedere on the show. And nobody laughed harder than Rob. And Rob actually wrote him a note saying, I will remember that Mr. Belvedere line for the rest of my life. That was so funny.
Yeah. And here's a cute. I went to the same church as Christopher Hewitt did in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Wow. Yeah, and Ricardo Montalban one day was coming into church, and Ricardo had one leg shorter than the other, and he limped. A lot of people didn't know that. And he's coming into the church. Stacy Keach came just before him, and I said, "Hey, Stace, how you doing?" Blah, blah. "Hey, Gary, how are you?" Mr. Montalban, who I never saw before, and I said, "Mr. Montalban, what a pleasure to meet you." He says, "Never talk to me. I am going to church to talk to God, and I don't want to be interrupted talking to God." And he walked in, and Christopher Hewitt staying next to me. I said, "What did I say?" He said, "You didn't say anything. He's a nasty guy." And I heard that from Shatner, and I heard that from Chris Lloyd when they worked with him, that he wasn't the nicest guy in the world to get along with. But I mean, it is what it is. But where do you see things going once this COVID thing subsides a little bit? I mean,
I shaved my mustache like this because I'm hoping somebody sees me on Twitch and thinks I could play Rob Bartlett in a flashback.
Either that or the porn industry will be calling.
I think we'll be fine. I think I don't know that it'll go back to the way it was immediately, but I do think there are enough people out there who are just starved for live entertainment.
Yeah.
And I mean, the few outdoor shows or even the theaters where they're only allowed 25% capacity. I'll tell you, a few months ago, I did a minor league baseball stadium that seats 8,000, and they all allowed in 350 people. And you get on, you go, oh my God, this is going to suck. And that 350 people wanted you to succeed so much that you couldn't believe how they sounded like 8,000 people.
Please tell me you performed on the pitcher's mound.
I did. We did. That's exactly what
Really?
That's awesome.
I think that one thing that this has done, and I don't think it'll last, is brought the audience into a new dimension of giving, being a part of the show, and giving. There's not that attitude of make me laugh. It's more like, please let me.
We're here to laugh.
Yeah, please make me laugh. Yeah.
And I think, I think audience is just like comics become cynical, and eventually that'll go away. Right now,
right now it feels pretty good.
Yeah. Very good.
I got to say, on the business end of it, if you flip to the business side, I mean, there's like people who are ready to work at the drop of a hat and make things happen. And right now I have 3 projects that hopefully this year will come to fruition of film. And all of them are, I always have like 5 ideas. These are actually taking meetings, discussing how we're going to pull it off, talking to the investors. Like, things are actually moving 3 at the same time, which has never happened to me before. And I think it's because people are going, you know what, life's short, and I want to make a piece of art that's going to last forever. And now's the time. I can't wait.
Right.
And I really think 2021 is going to turn a corner, and all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of entertainment happening.
Well, hopefully we'll get this under control with the new guy in the White House. I mean, we need to do something.
I think the other thing is that the discovery of, I don't want to say discovery of podcasts, right, because they've been around in Zoom shows, but it's been interesting. Artists will always find a way to reinvent themselves. And I think that's what's been going on for the last 6 to 8 months, a lot. And a lot of it is not successful, which is part of the whole art world. But it is,
and I got to, you're good. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Went into this thing last week with no idea of what we were doing, because you know what? No one had ever done it what we were doing.
Right.
And
shaking it up.
And it had a lot of mistakes, but all in all, I mean, the result was amazing. And to the point where I'm going, we got to do that again before the pandemic's over, because people are home. Like, it's just so funny how, like, now you're in a rush to do something before the pandemic's over, because
you got to get the ideas out.
Yeah. I mean, I tuned in a couple of times and I watched it again, through a link that Mark sent me. that you guys didn't even know I was there. And I was watching it from time to time, and you guys were getting along, and it was great. And everybody was simpatico, and everybody was up on what was going on and the generosity to help with these two charities. And I thought it was funny. I just know that you two guys were like, what did you do? You were on for 3 hours and then slept for 3 hours?
No, I wish. It was
slept for 40 minutes.
I watched Richie take like maybe 4 or 5 2-hour naps, maybe.
Really? Yeah.
Probably even less than that.
Wow.
Yeah. I had to take chunks where I had to go like get the kids ready for school.
Yeah.
I took a couple naps. It was really hard.
I remember Jim David telling us that story about being in Alaska, and we were running late because we had some technical snafus, and the next guest host was Chris Roach, who I had gotten, and we were going to lose him and all his guests because we were running late. And I'm sitting there, and I'd been on the air for over 9 hours at that point, nonstop. And I'm thinking about, oh man, I hope Chris Roach isn't mad at me. I hope this person isn't mad at me. And Jim David told this amazing, funny story that I completely missed, even though I was right there on the air with him. I have to go back and look at it because everyone's talking about this story and how great it was. And I couldn't even hear him. I was so tired.
I'll give you the highlight of it is I pointed out how Jim David can make any word funny. Yes. Because he was talking about the people of Alaska. He taught a comedy class. And he goes, there was a lot of jokes about diesel fuel. I laughed so hard. I'm like, say it again, Jim. Diesel fuel.
Diesel fuel.
But guys, what you were saying about reinventing yourself, Richie and I both reinvented ourselves probably 4 times, 5 times during this pandemic, trying to figure out.
Better.
I've reinvented my pants size.
Yeah. But join the group, guys. Join the group.
But I find it interesting because, like, you know, I keep thinking like, oh, I've been doing comedy for 18 years, and I have to change. I don't want to. I just want to be who I am. And then I watch somebody like Rich Scheidner, who's been doing it since the mid 70s. He was part of the whole movement.
That's
for comics and he is now the Zoom master storyteller, and he's not doing his act. He's just telling stories about his act. And anytime he's on Jim Mendrino's shows, I always ask Jim, is it cool if I pop in just to watch Rich? Because he's doing new stories every night, and it's
wow.
Somebody like him can reinvent himself. Why can't I?
Rich Scheidner, when I first met him at the same time I met Glenn Hirsch, and both of them have always been truly pros. I was at the Improv the night that Glenn did the Tonight Show, and he came into the Improv, and he was just like really pumped and juiced and everything. And Rich was, because Carol Leifer, who was his ex-wife, she used to mock us young guys that were starting out a little bit if she was feeling her oats some nights, and Rich would come over and say, Gary, relax, I'll talk to her, boom, 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 boom. But Rich Scheidner has always been a total pro, a total professional. I'm going to get him on this show because I want him and Glenn on at the same time, like I've had you two guys. And speaking of which, we're running out of time, guys.
Oh, man. Well, time flies with you, man. You're so good at asking the right questions, and then it spins us off into these crazy conversations that hopefully the audience likes.
I enjoy doing it. I enjoy having you guys on. You're going to come back on again, I know, and we'll have more Dick Wolf stories by then, I'm sure. But I want to thank both Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne for joining us here on Main Street this week. Next week, we have Peter Vogel joining us at 4 p.m. right here on Main Street. It has been a gas. I hope all of you take care of yourselves between now and next Friday at 4 p.m. for Main Street. Until then, would you please take care of yourselves and take care of each other? Yeah. I don't know where my producer is at the moment. He's around somewhere. He's doing that other show, I guess, or something like that.
Do we know how to get out of this?
No, he'll come along shortly, very shortly. But we'll just keep talking about showbiz until he shows.
I was doing the sitcom Pose. Waiting for my name to pop up. Mark Riccadonna.
MarkRiccadonna.com, please, But no, I mean, you guys are just, it was so much fun watching you two work. And I buzzed in the one time and it was short and it was sweet. The next time I got in there and this poor woman was, he says 5 minutes. So, all right, I already signed off, but okay. But we'll do it again. We'll sign off again. But go ahead.
Something I found super interesting during this whole marathon thing, I only told 2 bits from my act. I only told 2 things from my act.
Yeah.
Because these comedians were so entertaining.
Yeah.
They were so engaging. They were into the conversations.
Yes.
I hate to say it because of how tired I was, but it flew by.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, though, I felt like I lost like a month of my life because I had to go back into reality and I had all this stuff that was stacked up. Right. And you realize when we were doing it, anybody watching probably thought, oh, that's really cool. What they don't realize is like, wow, their life is just piling up behind them of the stuff they're going to have to do when they're done.
Oh, God. All right, listen. Go ahead, Richie.
What people were saying. People are actually saying to me, I love the show. It was seamless. And I'm like, wow. Well, that's a real compliment because you don't know what was going on behind the scenes, man.
Yeah.
Well, I felt bad most of the time. You see Richie and I like this, and people are like, were you not interested in that comedian? Like they'll say, I noticed in the thing. It's like, no. We're busy text messaging each other, trying to figure out who the next guest is because somebody canceled and we have to find somebody else.
Yeah.
It was
great.
Now, guys, I've got to say goodbye because we are down to just a couple of minutes. I've already kind of closed out the show, but just everybody, please join us next week. Peter Vogel will be on. Mark Riccadonna, Richie Byrne. I love you both very much. Richie, send me a new doll as soon as possible. I blew out the other one from Christmas. Watch them on Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling on Twitch. What time is it on?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Please watch these guys. They're good friends of mine. This is Gary Allen for Mainstreet. Join us next Friday at 4 p.m. Peter Vogel will be joining us. He is working right now with Chaz Palminteri on some projects. Hope to see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And thank Tommy Schitz, who is my producer. Thank you all. Have a great week.
Bye.
Okay, Peter Vogel. That's
all right. There we go.